We're back with the Two Henry podcast. Councilman Henry Davis Jr. and
Henry Davis Sr.
And you're back with us. We really appreciate you guys tuning in and participating in our discussions. And I really appreciate everyone's honesty about how they feel about the show and the comments that I'm receiving back. I think that those comments are like really, really awesome. I'm just really appreciative of the blessing that this has become. Being able to have a discussion about, things that, impact not only myself, but the entire community, but have it generationally. And I think that's probably more of what I'm catching when I get comments and feedback from people. They talk about, there is a contrast here. Well, how obviously my father feels and how I feel, and that those things are probably the most interesting part because of how things are explained. And it could be the same thing, but they're explained differently. And that's the generational thing about it. And that's the whole point of this show is to see, how some of the things can often be the same, but really not the same, but also explained differently, but you kind of like still end up at this, same space. It just gives a different color to the discussions that, again, like I said, impact us all in a negative and in positive way. But for the most part, again, thank you for thinking enough of us to tune in and to just, give this some of your time, and I really appreciate it all. I think today we're going to jump on another topic, and the topic is identity. I think my father brought that up earlier about, discussion points and what should we be talking about, and identity became one. So you're going to get a part one, and you're also going to get a part two of this discussion because it's warranted. And it's going to go a few different ways, but I hope that you guys really, really enjoy what we're discussing. So you said something about identity earlier. We were talking about crime. We were talking about the community itself and just responses or the lack of responses from people when it comes to, current events or things that really, impact us negatively or positively. But for the most part, you want to talk about this in length because it just doesn't happen right here in this corner and stays there. It kind of spreads, right? It turns into it creates its own spirit. It continues to evolve, and then before you know it, you got a gang of stuff that you're dealing with versus just a small thing. So, at your pleasure, sir.
Identity. If you don't have an identity, if you don't know who you are, where you're going, what is your purpose, it will be given you, whether it's negative or positive. But you must understand why and your purpose of being here. Let's go back into the early 60s where...
Now, I can't talk about the early 60s, man. I was born in 79.
Okay, but I'll bring it up to speed. When I was in elementary school, I had no idea about what I wanted to do with my life, where I wanted to go, or that I had the power to choose that. We just more or less floated along. At least we thought we were floating along, but we wasn't. Things was going on around us, shaping us, such as Roe versus Wade.
That was abortion, right?
Right.
Okay.
Even Brown versus the Board of Education. Those things were being...
And that was Board of Education. What decision was that? Brown and versus the Board of Education. I'm doing this on purpose because we have people, that may not
Well,
understand.
go ahead.
And I'm asking, isn't that Board of Education, was that the one that was separate but equal?
Exactly.
And that was, trying to ensure that both sides or two sides can come together and have sort of the same set of resources available for education, public education.
Right. Separate but equal.
Yeah, okay.
And those things,
I don't know. I'm sure. It probably is more than that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
those things were being talked about. And it was being talked about on a level to where the ones that was really being affected or infected by that were not being heard. Just like today, people are being counted out, and people will not, no, some people will not speak up because they have no identity, they have no direction, they have no purpose. They're just floating along. They think they are floating along, but they're being merchandised.
Good word.
And we talk about drugs, we talk about murders, we talking about guns, we talking about neighborhoods being destroyed, some neighborhoods being built up. There is a invisible wall there.
Well, I mean, you locally, they're creating new neighborhoods, especially more in this downtown centralized area. And, obviously those neighborhoods are going to be, high dollar, high price, condos, riverfront, et cetera. And the shame is that the existing or established neighborhoods are the ones that are being looked over. So the people that are paying for South Bend as a whole, this community as a whole, never really get an opportunity to enjoy their investments because it never comes back to them. The leadership of the community, your elected leadership of this community, decides that the revenue needs to go in a different direction to expand or create or to whatever that is, but it doesn't come back to regular Joe Public. It's everybody else, but Joe Public, or it's somebody that needs to come into town. We want these people to move into town. Kind of like we want people from Chicago to move here and get on the South Shore and go back and forth to their job. One of them things.
Yeah,
and it's just. It's weird, and people believe that stuff.
yeah.
I mean, that could happen,
Right. And to me, it boils down to who do you serve? Who do you serve?
What do you mean by that?
Kingdom. Let's talk on that. And kingdom basically means government. In the Bible, it says, who do you serve? It was talking to Israel. Will you serve the gods on the other side of the Jordan, or will you serve the God that brought you to the promised land? Now, we as people have a fallen nature. And in that nature, we can do good. But that good that we do, evil always is following behind that. We as people have a tendency of giving our allegiance to what we think that's good. And the motives behind the one that we are following may not be the same, have the same motivation that we have. And that's what we're living in right now. How can you say that you care about me when my neighborhood It's no longer a neighborhood. It looks like the country or the county, but you call it the city. I could stand on one block and see everything for the next 10 blocks of emptiness. The people start taking on that character of where they are. You have leaders that you elect that don't have your best interests at heart, but they came across with a good idea, but it was never implemented. We got a vacuum now. We have children. I'm talking about children being taught it and treated as adults.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say something about that. There is like this idea here, and I have to bring it back locally because obviously I live here locally, but I can explain it better because I'm living it. I'm seeing, or even also hearing, and this is not just last week or the week before. This goes back several years with me. The categorization of the word youth and then youth violence. I don't necessarily know if I know what youth actually is anymore, given the definitions that I continue to hear that are being used in mainstream media here locally. So a youth, and I'm going to get to where you're going with this, and I'm going to connect it. So youth becomes 12, 13, 14, all the way up past 18, 19 years old, 20, 22, 23, 24. And I think I looked up the definition at one point in time, how they're treating youth federally, the categorization of what a youth is. And where I come from and how I feel about youth, because I grew up in a youth department at the local church, because I knew what youth was Charles Martin and his programming, because I knew what youth was, there was a cutoff when you became 17, 18, 19 years of age. You were no longer looked upon as being youth. As a matter of fact, I think at 16 is when you started really feeling that, there was a level of accountability that one must carry and be responsible for. But now youth is all the way up to mid-20s almost. I think it's 24 is the cutoff. I think, and so I was just having this discussion with this public school teacher on Facebook earlier. I said, the youth that you're describing, and your frustration, ma'am, and I understand that she's really, really frustrated because she works as a public school teacher, and their problems are insurmountable. But in order for us to address the problems of youth, identity being the overreaching one, the calling card, you have to first start dividing this stuff up. The needs of a 12-year-old are so much different than the needs of the 22-year-old. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The needs of a 16-year-old is different than the needs of a 12-year-old, right? And so if you keep on that scale and start looking at your different stages, so the pecking order, the idea, the result of needs assessment, because that's what it is, changes as you grow older. So when we are talking about youth violence, you can't call this youth violence when there's a 18, 19-year-old or a 22-year-old performing the act of gun violence, shooting someone, and saying that it's youth violence and these kids around here are tripping. No, that ain't no kid. That ain't no damn kid. That's a grown man. What are you talking about? So now they're not only miscategorizing it, and you're making the actual youth of the community more responsible for something that they didn't do. So now the 12-year-old, the 13-year-old takes on the identity of the 19 to 20-year-old because now we've past the place of no return. Now everybody that's young is youth. No, they're just younger, right? It's different needs, and so when we're able to announce it properly, I think the community that you're talking about, the kingdom, it's going to require more, and the truth is, it becomes a clearer picture to me. Because now when you start putting things in their place, the housing becomes the discussion of what an 18-year-old or 19-year-old really needs. You understand what I'm saying? A 12-year-old needs proper guidance in a school that's real resource. You understand? That's what they need at that age. You know, good teachers, well-resourced school. They need playground equipment. You understand what I'm saying?
Strong role models.
Yeah. And so when I move over to, age 16, the needs are going to be different and change. So I just can't just keep bunching all of this up together. And then before I know it, you have nothing. Or you have a ball of confusion.
Right. But the thing to me is who's labeling who's bringing forth these characterizations that they become acceptable.
I'm gonna make it even easier, right? So then, when things do go really, really bad or poorly, it starts at home. And although I do agree, it does, right? I'm who I am because of you and my mother, right? So it does start at home. But guess what? What if they didn't have a home? So what if the parents that you're angry with in their youth, whenever that is, began to perform parental duties, but they can't perform them the way that we think that it's acceptable because they didn't have parents. So it keeps repeating itself, reproducing itself, replicating itself. So you get the same thing, or it gets worse. So you can't put what I'm saying is you can't put the person on a scale and measure them when that ruler measures something different. They don't fit. It doesn't fit. We have to put it in its proper perspective and put a real a light on it. You can't just like say, hey, we're just going to do this and everybody go over there. No, everybody does not fit over there. Everybody has their unique, needs.
Right. That's why I went back to the 60s. All the things that were gained, we're losing. It's to me, it's worse now than it was in the 50s and the 60s.
Why is that?
Murders, drugs, division, lack of direction. It's worse. Then you had a vision, you had a direction, you had something that was viable to fight for, to stand up for. From the 60s through the 70s, there was a fight for common ground. That ground is no longer common. It is what you want to call it. It's what your truth is. There's a division there. What I call truth and what another person might call truth may be two different things.
Well, you said the standards have been stripped away.
Right. And so now, let's see, like in the 60s, people were tired of other people pointing a direction for them.
Say that again.
In the 60s, people were tired of the government, people that were in a position that would be able to make a change as far as monetarily, position-wise. Those things were being fought for. No longer are they fighting for them now. We have become relaxed as a people, particularly as black people. We're fighting now to keep voting as a right, as a privilege. Now they're saying you got to have this, you got to have that, you got to have this type of ID, you got to have this type of ID. If you don't have that, your vote won't count. Well, it was that way at one
It'd be easier to just get on the plane.
It used to be where you had to be a landowner to vote.
Yeah, poll tax and all of those other things,
so
historical.
It's reverting back to that. See, this people of this kingdom only can do one thing, that is destroy. And that's what we're living in. We're living in a house where all the rooms are being destroyed and we're all congregating into another room. What we need to do is start building our own. We have to have a standard. We have to have a direction. We must have a plan. We must first have an identity. And as long as I allow you to give me my identity, I'm always at your mercy, and you don't even know how to spell mercy. So we must come together on one truth. One truth is there is a God. One truth is that he do love us. That this is not always is going to be what we see now. And with that hope, I can reach out to my brother. I can reach out to my sister and start making and believing in the plan that is written to make a better day for us while we are here. We can no longer tell somebody to put a gun down. Okay, you can put it down, but what you gonna pick up? Where are you going with this? You telling me to be a community. I've never seen a community. I've never seen people reach out and embrace one another without an ulterior motive. All the motivation now is for self.
Well, that's why it's easy, right? So somebody can get up and say, put the guns down. Those are words of no consequence, right? I can say that, and everybody can agree. Everybody can agree. So it's of no consequence. I don't anger anyone. That doesn't anger anyone. Put the guns down. And if it does anger someone, it's a small percentage of people who really want the thereafter of present. You know, they want the solution. But those are the ones that are interested in communicating. We need a solution. Small number. The other folks interested in following along, that's of no consequence to them, because now someone else is going to take care of this. It's not me. Right. It doesn't have to be me. I agree with you need to put the guns down. The psychology behind it is sick. If I can stand behind that, that means I did my job and I've done enough.
Yeah, I'm not going no further.
And I'm not going any further. Although the reason why this is an issue is because of 1, 2, and 3, and A, B, and C, and D, and E, and F, all the way down to Z.
because it was the lack of the reason why
Yeah.
gun was picked up in the first place.
And there's all kinds of issues on the reason why or answers to that question. I mean, there's a plethora of them, right? You can go with that.
But the real gun is being treated indifferent. There's something happens before you pick up a gun that you didn't think that much of yourself or your neighbor. That's why you picked up the gun. There was not a sense of community. There was not a sense of love. And we talk about that as if it's secondary. It's not secondary.
Well, how do we define community? Because we can go a little bit further than this. And so I want the idea of community. We have to define what community is. And so we're going to finish up, and this is a part of a part 2 series. We're going to end right there, and then we're going to also pick up on the word community here soon, because this is going to take us to the crux of the discussion, because you're talking about identity, which helps create life chances. But I think if you live in the community, as you said earlier, helps dictate what that is. It's the frame of how this is going to work out. So, you guys, thank you again for tuning in, as always, for the Tune Heating Podcast. Appreciate your time. Appreciate, again, keep blessing us, and we're going to keep blessing you. I really appreciate it. We'll be back for part 2. I hope you're enjoying this discussion, because I think that this is probably more of what this show is about, and how do we develop these new systems that we need to be feeding from, developing within. So we'll be back, part 2. Thank you so much.